Hello, hello to all of the loved ones. This is Love Marlene 411, and where we have all of the conversations about love, the love we have for ourselves, your children, spouse, significant other, your friends, everybody that we encounter. Because when we are okay with the love for ourselves, we're able to filter that down to, to everybody else. So, welcome to the Sip and Chat. And we have my co host, Miss Nexie.
Hello, Miss Marlene. I heard an echo. I heard you repeat twice. I'm like, what's going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah. You know how when you go live and then if I
You
have,
have another device. Yes,
yada,
yes,
yada,
Miss
yada.
Marlene. I'm like, she must love her voice so much that she has to hear it twice. But, anyways, how are you, Miss Marlene? Hi, everyone.
We have cruising is fun anytime. Hi, good evening.
Hello.
Yep. Welcome in. Thank you so much for being here. So, Miss Nexie, uh, we have to start off this topic today by, saying, this is a trigger warning because of the sensitive nature. This is adult content. Okay. So, we do
Mm-hmm.
have to say that. And before all of that, sip and chat, Miss Nexie, you know what I'm going to ask you. You
Of
know.
course, I know. Of course, Miss Marlene. And this time, you will revert back to the Nexie you met a long time ago. I'm having a coffee, Miss Marlene, a coffee. Because it's raining over here and it's super cold and it's gloomy and I am having my warm cup of coffee.
Okay, okay. Well, that's good. I'm glad. A comfortable, warm drink. Miss Nexie, I have a something to keep me
Uh-uh.
warm. You know,
Uh-oh. What do you have, Miss Marlene? What are you sipping on?
I have, as my mother would call, a hot toddy.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And what in the world is that?
It's like when you take like a tequila and you mix it in with any beverage, like
Oh
anything
no.
sir, but anything to warm up. My mom would say, warm up your stomach.
I'm glad it is. I wanted to show you something really quick, Miss Marlene, so you can see how it is right now. Look at this.
Oh wow, it is raining.
It's super gloomy, so I needed that cup of coffee.
Oh wow. Oh
Yes,
well,
ma'am.
but it's
So
not
I'm
too bad.
like,
It's very
coffee it is.
it's very relaxing. I feel like I just tuned into some ASMR. That was nice.
Yes, it is. And you know what okay, so you know how when you're a child, are it's raining, you're under the storm, just laughing and running and getting wet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it started yesterday night, started like raining, and this morning for some reason, I don't know why, I just felt like, going to the store. I was coming out of work and I was like, I'm gonna stop by the store real quick, and I walk home and it was pouring. And I was just under the water. I was cold because it's very cold right now. I think we're at 50 or something like that. But it was so good, so refreshing. It took me back to my childhood. It was so
Oh,
awesome.
that's wonderful. I'm glad you had a good memory. I'm glad. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yes.
So, Miss Nexie, you see the topic. What we're going to be talking about today. Oh, it's going to be such a good one. So, today we're going to be talking about something of very sensitive nature, but very important, the impact of being cheated on. And we're going to go into talking about it from not just how it impacts the person who is cheated on, but all of the ripple effects, all the
Okay.
other relationships that it it filters down to, it trickles down to. So, hi Miss Betty, how are you? Hi Kygus. Welcome in.
Hello, Miss Betty. Hello. Welcome, everyone.
Yes. So, I have to say this, Miss Nexie. Cheating is something that it affects everybody. Now, before something like this would have happened to me, I would be like, "Oh no, cheating only affects the people in the relationship." But as I've matured, as things have happened to me, now I can see how many people the selfish act of cheating it affects.
Oh, yeah. Especially if, and it's not just Miss Marlene, as you are, younger and unmarried. I'm assuming when you were thinking these things, but
Mhm.
it's not just then because sometimes even I, being married and everything, I never, not in my wildest dreams it would have occurred to me that a cheating spouse or significant other was going to ripple and affect not just me but our children,
Mhm.
and in effect to that it's going to affect my children's because it doesn't stop there. It hurts so
Yes.
many people around that it's not even necessary that you're gonna go out and tell everyone, oh, he cheated on me, he's this, he's that, but eventually it's found out, especially if they start bringing the new partner around, or they are seen somewhere, people know that you've been cheated on. And
Exactly.
sometimes children witness those things, and it affects them in more ways than one. And but I thought, if anyone, because I grew up in a third world country. I grew up with a lot of macho men that they think that they can have three or four different girlfriends and the wife at home with the kids, right? And it's a normal, and people make it so normal, Miss Marlene, and that always bothered me because I will see the wives putting up with it, and they knew he had somebody else, but they would just still cook, clean, whatever, and just put up with it. And it bothered me as I was, when I was growing up. And so I grew up in that environment. So I knew that things like that happen. I wasn't oblivious to the fact that that happens. What I thought growing up is that, oh, okay, since the kids are so normal and if they don't mind, that means it only affects the mom and dad,
Mhm.
or maybe not even the mom. And then I started seeing, well, maybe it's okay or normal. I don't know. But the thing is that I only thought as I grew up later that it only affected the couple.
Mhm.
So I will think in my crazy mind, if it ever happens to me, it's just going to be between us. That's how conditioned you get from seeing things like this growing up, right? You
Yeah.
get so conditioned to, oh, okay, since all these ladies whose husbands were out there messing around and the kids were in the family, they will see that with the other woman, they will see that the mom was probably, had seen them and was probably hurting, whatever. And I knew that they kept on going like nothing happened. I said, well, if this is okay, then that means it doesn't affect the kids, it only affects the mom and dad.
Yeah.
That's,
And it couldn't be further from the truth.
oh, so
Couldn't
wrong, Miss Marlene. Let me tell you, Miss Marlene, I was so very wrong there. But I understand where you were coming from. That's what I wanted to say. I went all around it. But I understand what you were trying to say as you when you
yeah.
were younger.
Yeah, because I think it's not only younger, but I think a lot of times the things that we say, you say out of your mouth because you have never been impacted by that. It's never trickled into your family, your friends, but once you see either if it's you or it's somebody you love, then you have a completely different way of thinking about cheating.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? Even again, because I saw friends too being cheated on, and they will still take them back. They will still continue to have children with them. You know what I mean? Like even though these things were happening, for me, like it was so normal that in my mind, I always said I will never forget someone that cheats on me, because at that point. that means they don't love me anymore, right? Because when you love someone, the last thing you want to do is to hurt them. When you are out of love from someone, the last thing you care is about hurting them. That was my mentality, and it's always been my mentality. So I always thought, even as growing up, as a child, I always think like, I don't, I can never forgive that. And I would tell my dad, I could never forgive something like that, Dad. And my dad would say, then you better stay single, Missy.
Mhm.
You better stay single for the rest of your life then, because all these men cheat. And I was like, no, I don't think so, Dad. I'm not gonna marry anyone from here. No, 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 no.
Yeah. And then life happens, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, then life happens. You always say, "Oh, it will never happen to me." I was so, I don't know, oblivious or something, but I thought like, okay, as long as you're a good person, you're good to the person, you're kind to them, you're patient with them, you keep yourself up, you feel like, oh, there's no reason, like, especially,
Hmm.
come on, Miss Next, you look at yourself and be like, come on, I look good. Like, come on. Are you kidding me? But the reality of it is that it has nothing, the cheating has nothing to do with us. It's anytime there is a breakdown in the relationship, some people, instead of addressing the issues in the relationship, they go to somebody else. And I didn't understand until I started working on myself and healing, going through therapy, that when there is cheating, yes, there is the fault of the person who is the cheater, but also there is fault with you as well. I'm looking at her like, what you talking about, Willis?
I told you, Miss Marlene, when I went to the therapist, and I said, "Can you believe what he did?" And he's listening the whole time, because in my mind, and again, it's erroneous to think that, of course, the cheating is their fault, Miss Marlene. We're not taking any blame for that, because if you cheat on someone, it's your fault. Because regardless of whatever is happening, if you weren't happy with that person anymore, or if you had feeling for somebody else, leave the one that you're with first. Don't cheat on them. You have no idea how much damage that creates on the person, right? So I'm thinking the cheating part is on him, right? Because he's the one that cheated on me.
Miss
It's
Nexie,
not
or
on me.
her, if she
Yeah, or her, if it's a woman cheating on a good man, yes, right? It's their fault, the cheaters, not our fault. But at the same time, when you get faced with, yeah, he cheated and everything, but why did he? What part did you play on that? And when that question was asked, I was like, is this mouth not working?
Yeah,
Is it not
yeah,
expressing the?
is my mic on? No, you're not
Yeah,
hearing me.
I said, are my words coming out in like a different language, like French or Japanese or something? Because I don't think you're understanding who did the cheating here. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. And so you do play a role. I can accept that. I can go as far as that. What I don't accept fault in is on the cheating part, because I
Yeah,
didn't send you to do that.
yeah. I have to pause on that, Miss Nexie, and say this. A lot of times when cheating happens, people will just look at and say, they cheated on me. And yes, you have that right to be upset, to be angry, to feel brokenhearted. That is a part of, dealing with it. The first step is always acceptance of what has happened. But also in that, you also have to say, where was the breakdown? Did I stop spending time with them? Was there a
Hmm.
lack of intimacy? Did we, did I stop, valuing their opinions? Was I putting them down? Did I treat them like their children? It's a lot of things that lead to the breakdown. And most of the time, it's lack of communication, lack of spending time together, and lack of intimacy, or a combination of all of them. And that is very dangerous grounds in a relationship when there is no longer intimacy. And for me, the biggest thing when you stop being able to talk to a person you're in a relationship with, that relationship is over. When you
Yeah.
start talking about stuff, mm-mm, no.
Yep. When you're sitting for hours without outing a word, when you're sitting at the dinner table, you guys are just eating and there's nothing being said, from one another. At that point, yeah, I feel that a relationship can be, said to be over because normally that's when you do most of the talking, right? Or, sometimes in your bedroom too, if you don't want the kids to hear, if you have kids. But most of the time is when you're eating, you start talking about your day, you start talking about, your plans, things like that. But if there's none of that going on, and everything that you do is avoidance of certain issues that you're supposed to talk about but you don't want to, and then cheating is the option you think is best, then communication is so much needed to
Mhm.
not get to that point,
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel 100% Miss Next see that. Instead of facing the issues in the relationship, it is easier to be like, I don't want to talk to him, or I don't want to talk to her, or you start poking holes in that person, like, and they do this and they do that, and they're not this and they're not that. Instead of thinking about all the things that drew you together, and then
Hmm.
saying, okay, yeah, now you're older, things happen, situations, but learning to navigate the relationship, and sometimes you may need that therapy. You may need to get yourself a nanny. You may need to have some time, go away and have a vacation, and do all of those things to help to keep the romance in your relationship. And I think that's what a lot of people, they stop doing. They neglect that part. They just think, oh, they know I love them, so
Hmm.
they stop saying I love you. They stop spending time together. And let me tell you how it goes. When you get in that rough period, there's always somebody, insert a good looking person, comes around, and they start wanting to spend time with you, and you're like, and they're looking kind of good, you know, and there
Hmm.
it goes. There it goes. All it takes is putting some doubt in the relationship, doubting if they're a good person, and then here comes another person, and then you start saying, "Oh, I think they're better than the one I have."
And Miss Marlene, going from that topic, that you're touching right now, it is so easy, especially when you have, kids, right? And they start growing up. There's a lot more responsibilities, a lot more things to do with them. Either take them to their soccer practice, to their swimming lessons, to their dance things, whatever it is that you're doing. As a mom, you're pretty much become the transport for every kid in the block, right? That goes to school with your children. And you get so caught up on that routine. And I'm telling you, as a person that was married and who did this, I'm not saying that this is what caused the outcome, right? All I'm saying is that I'm guilty of certain things like that. My thinking is, well, that's their father, right? So he knows I'm doing all this for the kids and I'm not spending time with him because our children need me right now. He'll understand. They're our children. So I'm the one, I'm taking them here, there, all the things that we enrolled them to. I'm making sure their homework is done. I'm making sure they're on top of their classes. I'm making sure that they're understanding their topics. And I'm on top of all of this. And my thinking was at that point, is that's their dad. So he's going to be okay. He should understand.
Hmm.
I'm doing it for our children. I'm not doing it for anybody else's children. So I gave myself that freedom of, you know, constantly bombarding my entire life and everything just with the kids. And yes, we will go on vacations, him and I, sometimes once or twice a year, for a week here and there. And sometimes we'll take like a weekend off. But as they got older, older and the more kids that came, the less time we had to do that.
Mhm.
And I, like, again, I didn't, the one thing I had to do, Miss Marlene, before I forgave him for what he did to me, I had to forgive myself for the role I played in what happened with us.
What
Not
do,
with the
what do you
cheating, not with the cheating. Like I said, not because that cheating is all on him. What I'm saying here is I had to forgive myself for everything that I did not do, or for any time I made him feel lesser than, or for the neglect, or what. I had to forgive myself in order for me to understand and forgive him afterwards. That doesn't mean I'm gonna forget and we're gonna go ahead and get together again and kumbaya, nothing happened. No, that didn't happen and will never happen. What I'm saying is I had to do that in order to forgive him and continue to parent together in harmony.
hmm Yeah. And Miss Nexie, I was thinking about something while you were saying that is, yes, insert children, but not all, romantic partnerings are would involve children. Sometimes it could be having a relative that has special needs. It could also be having older parents, and you have to, and you're busy in that, and you're giving all your time to other people, everybody but your partner.
Yeah,
And
and he
then
should understand because he married me and he knew, right, that I had all this other things when we were together. So he knows and therefore he understands.
hmm and it's one of those things, Miss Nexie. I remember when the therapist was like, "But did you ask him for his help with it?" You know how it gets sometimes, and you're like, "But I no stop, I'll do it." And then it's always everything you do it, and they're not doing anything, and you're like, "Well," and then afterwards you complain. You're like, "But you don't even do anything. You don't let me do anything."
What if when you tell them, okay, you do this, and then you go back and say, God, you didn't even do it right. That's why I have to do it myself.
Mhm. And you
Yeah, again,
and you
therapists are so vicious.
mhm. And Miss Next, and you chip away. I'm telling you, when we do that, you unknowingly you're chipping away at their ego, chipping away at their self esteem, chipping away at the relationship little by little.
Yeah, and again, it. I think that sometimes because of life, we forget, right? That that person has um, a different way of thinking, a different way of doing things than we do,
hmm
right? Because for me is I'm a very secure person, right? So for me, there's no need for you to be telling me all the time, I love you and I need you. I know that in my own way, I understand where in what areas you need me, right? And I'm okay with that. I know that you love me because there's things that you do that show me, but we sometimes neglect or forget to understand that maybe this person is not like me. Maybe this person needs to be butter up a little every day or every other day, and feel important as he used to be, or feel as number one or one and a half from number one, the kiddos, as he used to be. And we're not, sometimes we forget that they're not like us, and I
Yeah,
think that's when the problems begin. And when my therapist said that, when he asked me that question, yeah, I understand your marriage broke up, and for whatever reason that it happened, it had been broken before the incident. It had been broken for a long time.
of course.
Things don't end from one day to the next. He says relationship endings are the same as their beginnings. You begin by getting to know each other. You don't just know each other one day, get married, and that's it. Everything's going to be beautiful. People do it that way, not as often anymore, but some people do it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's the worst thing they can do. He says, but most of the time in so-called normal people, You take your time to get to know this person, and it's a while before you propose and things like this. So the same thing goes for a marriage in distress or a broken marriage. It's not something that just happened. It had been there the whole time. And then I said one thing to my therapist. Yeah, but he should have told me that he was feeling this way. He should have said something to me. And then he says, how many openings do you think you gave him for that? Or how many times do you think you were available for that?
Hmm.
For those hard conversations, heart to heart. Um, and I think that that's the thing that, it's easier, Marlene, to deal with, Miss Marlene, I'm sorry, to deal with a betrayer or a betrayal. It's a lot easier to say, he did everything. It's all his fault because it hurts less when you put it that way,
Yes.
right? And if you have no repercussions of what happened between the two of you, if there were none, then it will be easier saying that you will forget and move on with your life. But with me, it was different because the fact that it was a betrayal. um, it it went down to our children.
Hmm.
The repercussions went far, far beyond what I expected. Because then I have, my kids that probably don't want to get married because they don't trust the opposite sex, or they don't want to get married because they don't want to go through that. They don't want to get married because they think everybody's the same way.
Yeah.
And if the person that loved them the most in the whole world did this to the person that actually loves them too the most in the whole world, then who else is out there?
Or,
Everybody else is going to be worse.
or they have the representative that all men or all women cheat, and
Exactly.
they can't be trusted, or they do this or they do that. But you don't have to say anything, even your body language, because some things that has happened to me, to friends, to people that I know, one comes in the room, the other one leaves, and kids are looking at all of that. Like every time that mom comes in the room, dad leaves, or vice versa, and they're like,
Hmm.
yeah, like what is really going on? So you don't have to say anything. Your body language, how you treat each other, how you talk to each other in front of the children, and especially if it's a toxic relationship, and there's a lot of arguing, there's a lot of verbal abuse, there's even sometimes the physical abuse. It's a lot. It's a lot
Hmm.
that goes into this, and a lot of toxicity. But let's talk about how it affects the relationship between the two people. I know in my case, when it was the cheating that happened to me, when I found out, initially it was like, I think I'm gonna work this out. We're gonna work this out. We're gonna heal it. We're gonna fix it. And then when you start to really process it in your mind and think about, like, okay, when you said you were here, you really weren't there, you were here. And when it all comes down, then you're like, no, I know, we're not working this out. No, no, yeah, I tried, but it's a no for me. But
Yeah, yeah, that's a good explanation. That you tried
hmm.
to get past it, right?
Hmm.
Did you guys do any therapy or just between the two of you?
No, it was just between, how like you're trying to rebuild. Hey, oh yeah, here's the term, Miss Nexie, in air quotes. Let's start over.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, the famous term, let's start over, like it's brand new and you're just meeting, and then it's the flowers. So then when you get the flowers, you're like, so these flowers mean what? Everything, you become to start over analyzing everything. Okay, you brought me flowers
Yeah.
today, but you didn't bring me flowers yesterday. Or
Did you bring her flowers?
yeah, did you bring her flowers, or what's going on? It gets to be too much. You start to, it's like, no, I can't do this. No matter what. And even when it's all of the breakdown that happened, even when you were part of the equation, when you did not make yourself available, even when the intimacy was lacking, even if the whatever you were only spending time with children or other relatives in space of your spouse, it still does not change the fact that you can't get over that betrayal. That's something that is it just cuts you deep down into your heart. That can't, you can't undo it.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
can't.
for me, it wasn't a choice, Miss Marlene. I know me. I know me very well. And, cheating is not something I can forgive and continue on with the relationship. I knew that it had ended the moment I found out that this was happening. Now, for me, it was more like, where do we go from here as far as the parenting of the children? I never gave it a second thought as, let's start over. For me, it began with the shock and then the processing, the hurt, the pain, the I can't believe you did this. All of those things. And then you start going back, as you say, thinking, oh, so this day, were you really at work? Right? You start going there. But after a certain amount of time, it can be months, at least for me, it was months. I I knew it was over. I knew it. Again, the only thing for me that was left to do is, okay, what do we do here? Where do we go from here? We're not going to get back together. We're not going to go to therapy. We're not going to do any of that because, again, I have this thing that it's done and over with the minute you cheat on me. That is something I cannot forgive.
Exactly, Miss
I know
Next.
myself. So
Yeah, I'm
now it's
glad.
like, yeah, now it's, yeah, for me, it was more like, where do we go from here? Right? What do we do now? And the process of moving out and this and that. The one thing I do, I did do, Miss Marlene, is I went back to therapy for myself,
Okay. Oh, that's
by
that's
myself.
that's good. I'm glad you did that because that's one of the things is like I'm telling you that it affects people in different ways. Some
Hmm.
people deal with it in a very toxic way. Like some people, that's when they go and they get like they go and buy this expensive sports car. Then they go and get themselves a new boyfriend or girlfriend that's like 15, 20 years younger. Like they go through a wild phase, or other people just isolate and just stay by themselves and have a pity party and just cry and cry themselves insanely. Some people lose a whole bunch of weight. Some people gain a lot of weight. And other people, it shifts their life. I've known people when things like happen, like cheating, like finally they know that it's going to be over. You'll see, like, they'll start looking really good. I don't know. Like, it does something to people. They're like, it wakes them up to, like,
Hmm.
I have not been treating myself the best way because I have to say, Miss Nexie, I can't speak for every woman or man, but a lot of times in a relationship, you lose yourself. You stop
Yes,
taking
you
care
do.
of yourself the way that you used to before. But it's like now you're like, it's over. Then you start looking at yourself again and you be like, oh, no, no. No, oh, no, no, no.
Wait a minute. This is what I used to wear to go out to the store on Sundays with him. What was wrong with me?
Yeah.
No wonder.
And you're like, no wonder. You're like, wow. But one of the things that I want to talk about now is how that cheating impacts us, how it impacts the person who was cheated on. And I know for in my case, like I said, initially it was I don't even think I was hurt by it initially. It was just like the shock of it. Like it was a shock, like,
Hmm.
what? You're like, what? Like me? Cheat on me? Like
On me?
what? You're like, what? Who
So on all this? On all this? You cheated on all
on
this?
this? Or like, really? And then after it, for me, it went shifted right from shock to anger.
Hmm.
Yeah, mine was shock straight to anger, like throwing stuff away, all of it, the complete meltdown, screaming. Yeah, that was I went from, oh, it's okay. Yeah, I think we can work it out, to get out.
And you better sleep with one eye open if you're gonna sleep in this household.
And then it's like, I thought you said we could. I said get out. That shift, man, I'm telling you, that shift is something serious, because you're like, oh yeah, I think, and the next day you're like, nope.
Hell yeah, and I use your toothbrush on the dog, just an FYI.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, he doesn't have to be informed of that. That's not important.
I just love to see that face. But again, yes, Miss Arlene, on me was the same thing. I think I don't remember when I was told what was happening. I think I have told you, I was in the, I was in the middle of my final semester exam. It was that day. I had already done the oral exam. I was doing the practical. It was my anatomy, and I think it was my chemistry class. I had like three different exams that day, different tests. And I was in the middle of the first one when somebody called me crying, screaming. And I was like, okay, what's happening? I thought, one of my kids or something. And then they said this and this and this and that. And I, 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 I don't remember, Miss Marlene.
Hmm.
Most of that day, I don't remember it because it was like probably like at 10 o'clock in the morning when they called me. And I remember the phone call, because I would look at my phone. But what I don't remember is how I got from my school to my house.
It was a blur.
Yeah, I don't know how I got there. When I got there, I don't know any of that. How I got out of the parking lot, don't ask me because I don't remember. How I knew what freeway to take, don't ask me because I don't know. Um, I was just gone. And the way it affected me when I found that out, you're right, is shock.
Hmm.
The first thing is shock. It's more like, how dare you? How could you? How dare you? How could you? That was me. Very upset. Probably afterwards, I was very upset because of who the person that discovered this was, right?
Hmm.
That's why I was very pissed. I was very angry. And then it went from that to grieving, because we had so many plans, because we had planned all of our life. We had been together for so long. And for this to happen to me, I was thinking only about me at that point, not my part of it. I was very sad. I was grieving it. And then what has happened to me is that because I know myself, I know that once somebody betrays me like that, I don't ever open that door again. And I've been alone for the past 14 years, and I have never been able to start any other relationship.
Because the trust is broken.
It's
Miss
broken.
Nancy.
My heart is broken. And again, it takes me a very long time. It took me a very long time to allow my this person to get into my heart, and to say, you know what? Yes, he got my back. I got my because I was betrayed when I was little by the person that was supposed to love me the most. So that scar was
I don't know what happened. I think your mic went out, Miss Nexie. Try again. We'll wait. No, I don't hear anything. I don't know if it's me. Let me turn my mic off. Okay. My mic is moving, so I don't think it's me. Anybody in the chat, let me know if you guys hear me. Oh, Miss Nexie, she's gonna come back. So this is something that is a very hurtful thing to anybody who's ever been cheated on. It's something that it affects your heart. It affects your body. It affects your mental health. It's like you don't even know what you're doing, and sometimes you'll like be somewhere and you just burst out crying. It's nothing can prepare you for it, and no matter how much you try, nothing can ever heal it. Let me see. Miss Nexie is back. Let's try. Miss Nexie, let's see if we can hear you now. You're muted still. You have to unmute your mic.
Yes. Okay, here we go. Oh, no,
Yay.
no. I'm so sorry about that.
It's
But
okay.
because it's raining, the internet is super, super crazy. But anyway, I don't know, if you heard everything, but for me, Miss Marlene, it took me back to my childhood. I think that's what happened because I have never opened myself up to anyone like this, right? For me, is I know I'm not going to be able to trust anyone 100% again. I know I'm not going to be able to love someone without reservations again. So, in order for me not to hurt somebody that will probably love me that way and not being able to give back that or reciprocate that, instead of me putting somebody else through that, I'd rather stay single and, avoid hurting anyone else in that way.
Yeah,
That was my whole
yeah,
thinking.
Miss Nexie. You know what I wanted to say to that is, to anybody who's ever been cheated on, give yourself some time to process it. I know the most natural thing for us to do is for us to be like, yeah, oh, I'm free. I'm gonna be in a relationship now. I'm gonna find myself some new young thing. That's the the normal thing to do when you're free. Hi, Miss Jays. How are you? Welcome. I feel like that's the normal thing to do is to, jump from a bad relationship into another one. But when we don't give ourselves time to like process it, we'll make the same mistakes that we made in the previous one. And I have to say, Miss Nexie, I'm glad that I took a break from all relationships so that I could work on me, work on being a better person and some of my faults. And everybody has faults to tell
Hmm.
the truth. But for the most part, if you work on some of the issues, if you're honest with yourself and talk about some of the things that there was a breakdown inside of you. I know. Thank you so much, Miss J says great topic.
Oh,
Um,
thank you. Thank you so much.
yeah. Because if we're honest, Miss Nexie, for me, it was looking at some of the things that I was doing, and it didn't start just because of the marriage or because of the boyfriend or girlfriend. It had nothing to do with the relationship. It's a lot of times we got into the relationship, we were already tainted. We already
Hmm.
came in with our baggage, our skeletons. And I can say for me, I can't speak for everybody, but I was a person that I got into my relationship running from one situation, like I wanted to leave the family environment, and I was like, I got to get out of here. So of course, I'll
Yeah.
get in this relationship. Like that will fix it. That will make me happy. Can't fix everything like love, right? So you think.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, the good thing is, for me, I already knew. It's always been very hard for me to trust people at 100% or even at 80% because of my childhood. My dad tried the best he could to change that, but he learned, and eventually he said, you know what, it's something that you have to do. There's nothing that I can do to repair the little broken heart. It's something that you have to work on, because I can give you, and he did. He gave us all of his love, his attention as much as he could. Did he make mistakes? He even said it. Of course he did. All of us parents make mistakes, but he was the best dad a person like me can ask for. He was very understanding, but he did say that to me. I cannot make you change or allow people in. That is something that you have to work on yourself. You have to open that heart of yours. He says, but you cannot go through life without allowing people in, because it's going to be a very lonely life. And with my husband, I learned to trust. I learned to love, and that's something that I'm always going to be grateful to him for, because he thawed my heart that it was a little frozen, because I wasn't able to love a significant other like that, like I got able to love with my husband. And he was very patient with me too, because again, we come with baggage, right, Miss Marlene?
Yeah,
But
lots of.
what he did at the end, and he even says to this day, he asks me for forgiveness, because he says that when I found out, the first thing he said is like, "Oh my God, I just sent her back to her childhood." And he, to this day, he still asks me. He's like, please forgive me. I am so sorry. You were the last person I wanted to hurt like that. I just don't know what happened to me." And I get it now. I get it. We were both at fault,
Mhm.
but I know me. So since I'm not healed at 100%, or at least at 80%, I am not going to pay forward, or bring the receipts on other people that I can hurt, because I'm not going to be able to love them the way that they deserve to be loved. So I keep myself single and away from all that, so that I don't hurt somebody else, because sometimes we do it not on purpose. We do it because we're hurt. We get with people, and they deserve to be loved, maybe not in the way that we can at that point, and we hurt them by doing that. And so I think in our subconscious, we know that we're not going to be able to love them the way they deserve, but we still do it. So I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be that person. And so it affected me in the way that, it brought me back to when before I met my husband. But now I know that I'm capable of that love, which was something that I didn't know I had the capability to do before my husband.
Mhm. Yeah, and we have a comment here from Miss J. She says, see, that's where baggage comes into play, but meeting that trauma head on, it is the start of unloading that baggage. And the thing about it is, I remember
Yes.
when I went to therapy, and the therapist told me that I could not be well, I could not be helped, I cannot be happy. I cannot make peace with it until I made a decision to make peace with it. And I was like, what
Hmm.
are you talking about? I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, who wants to be angry and miserable? And she's looking at me like, at any time, you can be happy. And I was like, are you kidding me? I don't
My
want to have to.
family, my extended family is the broken one, not me.
Yeah.
They are the
I was like, I
problem.
did nothing. I was like, and she was like, really? That's when she really started writing with the pen. Oh, you did nothing? Oh, oh. I think smoke came out of the pen. I was like, But that's what it is when you're in that zone. All you can think about is just yourself. You don't think about other people that are affected. And I did want to talk about, this is something that I didn't think about until I came up with this topic, how it affects your social circle too.
Hmm.
Because after you've been in a relationship with somebody so long, you have the friends that you have as a couple, and then
Yes.
when it breaks up, it's very awkward, Miss Nexie, because
It is.
it's like
It is.
you want to hang out there, but then they're gonna be like, "Hey, when's the last time you talked to them?" And you're like, "No, no, no, I'm not here. I don't want to talk about you."
Or at a birthday party, who do they invite?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to, and I will even joke with my ex that, I'll take half of the friends and you take that and we're gonna put it on the divorce. Then I keep the half that I like and you can keep the rest that I never really liked. But we hung out with them anyway. No, but it affects you. It affects the circle of friends that you surround yourself with as a couple, because first of all, they don't want to take sides.
And
Second,
that's
they hate
Nexie,
seeing
but
that
we
beautiful
want them
couple.
to. But we want
Eh,
them to choose.
yes, we do, but we cannot ask them to do that. And a good friend will not take sides. A good friend will stay neutral because that's what a friend does. A good friend stays neutral so that he or she can help both. But for me, it was awkward because again, we shared the same friends, right? Same group of couple friends.
Mhm.
Um, and it was weird because on birthday parties, do I invite both, or they sometimes don't tell you because so and so said already told your ex that they're gonna have the party, and then they get mad at the husbands. Why did you tell him I was gonna invite her? You know what I mean? Like, so it affects it, and eventually, which is what happened to us, is eventually you lose touch with those people because you cannot relate anymore in the same way you were able to when you were a couple.
Yeah, I had to learn that
Yes,
there's
the loss.
there's couple friends, and then there's the friends that you had, like the people that you met because of being in a
Of
relationship,
him.
that's separate
Yeah.
from them. And I want to highlight this comment. Cheating and being cheated on is not only hurtful, but it's also a betrayal. We as ladies
Hmm.
always getting involved with men, hurt men, thinking we're going to change them, all along knowing to us we are enabling them.
Hmm.
Ladies, not only do we need a safe space to let your man know they have a safe space to be honest, and then it's time to do the work together. Well, I have to
Beautiful.
I have to say this too, is that vice versa too, because sometimes it's that you could have a man that is in a good space, and we as the woman are hurt. So it's not
Hmm.
always that the men are hurt. Sometimes the women, us ladies, we're hurt, and then you go into the relationship with all of these, like, looking at them sideways, or the judgments or assumptions, and that chips away at the relationship um as well. It
Yeah.
chips away until it's like a shell of a
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah, you have to mourn those losses too, Miss Marlene. Of with um, and again, which is why I'm telling you, when I went through this, I knew I wasn't the same anymore. I knew I was,
Mhm.
I had changed because again, thanks to my husband and his family, especially my mother-in-law, who was a mother to me, I learned to open my heart, to trust, and to be able to love, to be capable of that love. But at the same time, I knew now that I'm brokenhearted, that I got betrayed in the way that I did. I knew that I was not going to be okay. I was not going to be the right person for anyone because I'm not going to be able to give you my heart entirely. I can't. I don't want to get hurt like that. I was already wounded. So, Another shot at the heart. That was it. It shattered it. It broke it. So I can't love like that again. So because I know myself now through therapy and many years, you know that, Miss Marlene, you and I have openly talked about our therapy,
Mhm.
our healing journey, and what we had to face about ourselves to be able to be in the position that we are today is that we have to know who we are. We have to be honest with ourselves and say, you know what, since I'm not going to be able or capable of loving and giving that type of love to anyone, then I'd rather not do that. I'd rather stay away, be content with what I have, work on myself and on bettering myself, be my best friend, be my own husband, my own wife, my own everything, and give the love that I can, that is safe for me to give to those people that are in need, or, to my children who I adore, right? And I knew that I was able to do that. So I didn't want to, and I'm going to put something really quick in this, Miss Marlene, because it's part
Sure.
of what we're talking about. When we got separated, we didn't start divorce proceedings right away. It's a matter of fact, we're barely starting that. We started it in 2020, but then the pandemic hit, so we had to pause it. But he waited for me. He gave me almost 12 years to get to the point of where we weren't going to be able to divorce and do it amicably, do it rational, do it with a clear head, a clear heart, no pain that was going to affect the outcome, and we were going to hurt each other more in the process of the divorce. So I appreciate that from him because he's been very patient with me in that respect. I told him, I want to make sure that when we get divorced, so that I don't take you for everything you got, and then you don't take me for everything I got, and that we're not fighting in courts for years about the separation and divorce and wealth. I said, we have to give me that time to get to process this. And when I'm ready, I'm going to tell you, okay, file, I'm ready to do this. And
Right.
that's exactly what he did. He gave me that time to be able to heal. And now, we're still in the process, but we can talk without throwing in, but you did this. You know what I mean? Like, it's your fault. Yeah, blah, 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 whatever. So we do it with a clear head. Yeah, there's arguments. I'm not going to lie. There's always arguments, but it has nothing to do with what happened. It has more to do that I want that. You knew I liked that house, or you knew I liked that car, or you knew I liked the vacation package, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like things like
Right.
that, but it
I
has nothing to do with feelings anymore. As far as I'm angry with you because of what you did, so I'm going to destroy you in court. We even said that we don't want the courts to get involved. We're going to do it with two lawyers. We're going to sit down, clear heads, and do this and separate the same way we got married, amicably and with love and respect for one another,
and
because we wanted to teach our children, Miss Marlene, that divorcing someone can be as happy as marrying someone.
hmm and I think you said something that's very key right there. He gave you the space in order to process it. A lot of times when things like that happen, it's like the cheater wants you to, okay, get over it. I said I was sorry. What do you want from me? It's like they want something to be like a quick fix for them. Oh, I said I was
Hmm.
sorry. What else do you want from? No, you need time to process it in your mind, in your heart. It's something new. You have to find out, what do I really want to do? Do I even want to live here anymore? It's a new, going to be a new life for you. So that's something that nobody can prepare you for that part. You can say in your mind, oh, if I ever get cheated on, this is what I'm going to do, like a robot, until it
Hmm.
happens.
I'm going to destroy them.
Then when it happens to you, you be like, oh, and I was saying to myself, I didn't know she had so much anger in her. I was like, wow.
No, no, no.
Very peaceful person
Miss
until
Marlene, Miss Marlene, listen, I told my dad. Okay, my dad. I remember my father, Miss Marlene, like it was yesterday when I was in my teen years, right? And I will see these cases of my friends getting cheated on, certain family members, the husbands, been all over the place with other women or the wife. Sometimes I will see my aunt in certain ways, and I'm like, wait a minute. But I will tell my dad, I will never, if I ever find, okay, a boyfriend or a husband cheating on me, I will pick up my stuff and I'm not even gonna address it. I'm just gonna turn around and leave and never speak to that person again.
Yeah.
Am I
Emphasis on
eating my words?
I was like, what did I say? Mum's the word.
Yes, never again. I won't even look at them. Give them a second look. That I will
I know.
pack up my stuff, get my luggage, pack everything up, and move out, move on. Never to speak to them again. But
I
it's not gonna be with hard feelings. No, I'm just not gonna speak to them. Not that I'm gonna be angry. No, it's just that I'm never. You know what I mean? And my dad will look at me, Miss Marlene, and he will just smile at me, and he will just he will get up and touch my head. He's like, ah, you, such a beautiful way of thinking.
Yeah. No, and you're like, so your dad's like, oh, so young
So you
and so
agree that?
inexperienced.
No, no, no. It was just such a beautiful way of thinking.
Oh, a
And I
powerful
was
way
like,
of
so you know I'm right, right, Dad? You know I'm right. And he would just smile and walk away. But it's funny because people, thanks to the way the relationship I had with my dad and how he allowed me to process. My dad never said because I told you so, or because I'm telling you to. My dad always explained the reason why certain things were done the way they were done, because I was that child that he had to explain to. And because you're a minor, and because if this happens, then I'm going to be responsible, and I'm not going to, I don't want to pay for your mistakes, right? And I would look at him like, oh yeah, so they would be my mistakes. And my dad, okay, I'm not going to do that then, because I don't want my dad to go through that, right? So my dad always did that to me, and I think that helped me. It propelled me to be the thinker that I am today. People, Miss Marlene, when they see my ex-husband and I together, they trip out because we take vacations together with our sons, with our kids sometimes, mostly with our sons because our daughters are married and they have their children or whatever. So the little one is the one that we take the most vacations with because he's still young and he's still at home. And he's always going to be part of us because, he's special needs, right?
right.
But we go on to to another country together. We're laughing, we're enjoying time, we're talking like that. And people are looking at us and they say, why don't you guys get back together? You guys are so beautiful together. And I said, no, because I cannot take prison. I can't. And if
Mhm.
I move back with him, I'm gonna go to the I'm gonna get I'm gonna be sent to jail. I can tolerate him because we don't live together.
Miss Nancy, that was not the concern for me. My family knows how I am. They'd be like, they would know he would be under the prison, not legally in it. He would be under it.
Yeah, so I was like, no, because I tolerate him now because we don't live together. So we still are a good a good set of parents for our children. I cannot say he's my best friend in that way because he is the father of my children, right? I can consider him a good someone that I love, family member. He's
Mhm.
not a friend, he's family because he's the father of my children. But we co-parent so beautifully, so that because we didn't want what happened to cause more damage to our children.
Mhm.
And so, we're able to do that. I'm not saying it has been easy, Miss Marlene. It has taken years for us to get to the point where we can be in the same place together without, like you say, walking into a room, the other one walks out. We're eating together, we're not talking, but the kids are. You know what I mean? Like, so it has taken us a long time to get here to where we're at. And I said us, I mean me.
Yeah.
Because again, I had to forgive me in order for me to start processing the forgiveness I had to give to him.
Yeah, you have to forgive yourself so that you can forgive him, and then it can apply to other people. Because if you're in that zone where you're always angry, it affects everybody. Everybody is affected when you're miserable. Um, so that brings me to the final point, Miss Nexie, of this: the impact of being cheated on, how it affects your immediate family and other relatives outside the extended family. And I have to tell you, when you have the connection, when you've been in a relationship, whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, and it's, become close to the family, or whether it's a marriage and those are your in laws, you form bonds. And just because
Yeah.
something has happened, it does not stop you from loving those people. It's just that you're just looking side eyed at the person who cheated on you, but you still love them. But I think for me, Miss Nexty, what hurt me is when it happens, you have some people who, even though you were not the offender, they still will take the side of their relative.
Yeah. Or what about the your family, your own flesh and blood, who when you tell them this is what's happening, they start crying for the betrayer, not for you.
Hmm. Yeah, or they say, "Oh, how could you mess?" No, they say, "How could you mess up that beautiful relationship? How could you? How could you?"
Yeah, and you know,
Really?
I remember when I told and she's gonna have to forgive me for saying this, but it's true. When I had been already, we had been separated for like 3 years, Miss Marlene, and none of my immediate family knew because we will come to Christmas parties together with our kids. We will go to birthday parties together with our kids. So nobody knew what was happening because we were so nice to each other, right? To keep appearances, even though we weren't even living in the same house. When I finally said, you know what, this has to stop because we're confusing the children and we're confusing the family. If we're gonna make a break, it's gonna have to be from now on, you do you, I do me, and then we come together just for our children, right? So when
Hmm.
I told my mom that we were, separated and that, we were heading for a future divorce, um, she started crying for him.
Mm.
Oh, I'm so sorry for him. And I said, and I looked at her and I said, for him? She said, yes, I am so sorry for him, because my mother in law at this point had passed away, right?
Mhm.
And you know, at this point, like I'm telling her, right? And I'm waiting. She's like, I feel so bad for him because he doesn't even have a mother anymore that can support him and help him. And I looked at her and I said, neither do I, Mom, because you're crying for him, not for me.
Wow.
And she looked at me and she's like, oh, no, no, that's not what I meant. But Miss Marlene, I understand what my mom was saying. I was just so mad at him that I was taking it out on my mom.
Mhm.
Because as a mother, Miss Marlene, if my daughter's husband doesn't have a mom, I'm going to mourn for him too. Because my daughter has me, right? She
Mhm.
has her rock here, but this poor man doesn't have a mom that he can rely on or
Mhm.
go to for support. So I get what she was trying to tell me now, but back then I backlashed at her. Neither do I because you're mourning, you're crying for him, not for me. So I guess I don't have a mother either. And I wasn't mad at her. I was so hurt from what was going on, what was happening, that I was just throwing rocks at everybody around me
No.
that sided with him in that little something. You know what I mean? It's,
Yeah, Miss Nexie, trust me, Miss Nexie. And you know what hurts so much, Miss Nexie? It hurts so much. I can't speak for everybody. I can just speak on my personal experience. But what hurt me so much is after all the chips fall, like the the in-laws that I love so much, none of them, like, not a phone call, not nothing,
Yes, that's exactly what happened to me and my children.
hurt
Th-
me so. I think for me that hurt more than the cheating, because you think, oh, they love me, they're
That's
praying
what happened
for
to me and my children.
me.
And that's why when with my when we got separated and everything, the family unity that I had created, because I worked very hard on uniting everyone, throwing Christmas parties, birthdays, and things like that, trying to keep the family together. And when we got separated, the entire family, probably like 3 or 4 people, maybe from the entire family, which is a huge family, maybe 2 or 3 will still call me and text me from time to time, but none of them came to the rescue of my children and say, how are you guys doing? No cousins, no aunties, no uncles, no one. And that hurt me because I said, hey, you don't want to talk to me? That's okay. But that's your niece and these are your nephews. So why are you divorcing them too? They're your blood, right? So
True.
that hurt me. Now, my in-laws, they don't talk to me. I really didn't care because I already knew how they were. I knew how, the minute my mother-in-law passed away, they really didn't like came together anymore. And I was tired of all the spending all that money for nothing. So I stopped. So they kind of went their separate ways. But, I was expecting for them to say, hey, how are the kids doing? Are they okay? That's all I wanted them to say. Call me and say, are they okay? Are you okay? But nobody said that. Nobody reached out and they divorced the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So when
That hurt,
uh,
and that hurts when it's a clean break.
it does,
Yeah.
it does, Miss Marlene, because kids have nothing. They lose the repercussions of a betrayal like this, or or a cheater, or whatever it is that happens. It hurts more people than the cheater imagines it will reach. It's far reaching.
Mm-hmm.
It destroys a lot of people. Like my sisters love, and I'm saying love because they still do. They love my husband. My mom, in her own way, loved my husband, my father, my brothers. But I'm going to tell you what my brothers did, Miss Marlene. My older brother came all the way from El Salvador when he found out that, we were going through this. And as we are getting to the airport, because, he came for like 3 or 4 days because he was passing by from El Salvador. He was going somewhere else, I think to Canada. But he stopped for 3 days here. And as we're in the airport, he's about to leave. He pulls my husband aside. And I don't know, they were talking for a while. He already knew we were in the process of separation. And my brother gives me a big hug, and he looked at my husband and said, remember what I told you? And then I said, oh, okay. I was like, okay. And my brother hugged me, kissed the kids, whatever. He left. And then I asked my husband, what did he say? He says, I cannot tell you everything because, I'm afraid of him. But all I can tell you is that he said, you better not abandon my sister and those kids. You better support my sister the same way she supported you when you were going through school, when you were getting your degrees, when you were working. She worked side by side with you. So you better support my sister now that you're not with her, the same way that she supported you when she was with you. And
Mm-hmm.
he told him, I will never not support your sister. I will never do that to her. And my brother said, yeah. And he told him why he knew he was never going to do it. So he says, I cannot tell you the rest because I'm afraid of you. And my other brothers, they talked to him and said certain things that to this day I don't know. But my brother said, don't worry about it. We got this. And
Yeah,
so that's what
he said
my
something
family,
brotherly.
so my family, my brothers came to the rescue. My sisters talked to him. They still do. They still do. My sister calls them. They visit each other from time to time, and they love my husband. My ex-husband. He has nothing to do, but my family did the right thing. This is the way it's supposed to be.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? My sister said, he's part of our family. He's my nieces and nephews' father. We're gonna love him no matter what because he gave us, my niece and nephews. So they still talk to him, not as often as when we were together, right? But we're soon enough going on a family vacation to my hometown, and he's coming with. My sisters told me, you better bring him.
Wow. That's a
Yeah.
Miss Nexie, that's a healing that took place in your family. And I think that that's something that I think just about everybody wants, because I've seen it not just in what happened with me, but I'm sure with you and many other people, like how cheating affects you, uh, affects friends, how it affects
Hmm.
everybody. Everybody, like honestly, you miss. It's also grieving the relationship. Like I miss seeing certain people together. It makes me so sad when I see that
Yeah.
they're no longer together. That breaks my
You,
heart too.
you know what breaks my heart when I see someone that has separated because of cheating and it hurts me because sometimes you know how when we are young we kind of like if we have friends our friends get married kind of the same time we do, so we all pretty much start families together, right? We get
Mhm.
married, we're like it hurts me because they to me it's like they make such a beautiful couple and they worked so hard to build that marriage they had and to obtain the house that they're living on and to create those little wonderful munchkins that are running around. And they worked so hard to be a couple and different. How could he or she take that for granted and cheat on her or him, right? That's what hurts me because I know that it's the end of an era. And seriously, that's exactly how I look at it. It's the end of an era when I see my friends getting divorced. And then they saw me going through it. It ended everything. We knew everything we had.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's nothing really that you can do about it, because there's a lot of loss. It's not just the impact on your heart or your children or your family or friends, but it affects the trust issues for everybody, because everybody's like, oh, how could they do that? How could they do that to them, to you, to the family, to our friend social network? Like it affects so many things. And I have to say that it stops a lot of people from ever getting in a relationship again.
Yep.
It causes people to, even if they do, it's just kind of like a a thing, like they go to hang out, but it's not anything serious. Like they'll never be in a committed relationship again. And
Yeah.
that's sad, because you can have such a good person and you can ruin them for the rest of their life.
Yeah, you can. I had to work very hard on my children, my sons and my daughters. I'm very grateful. I'm very thankful to God that He worked on them with me because I had children that will tell me, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to have kids. I will never go through that. I don't want that. I don't. I'm not going to get married. I'm going to stay, single. I'm going to date whatever, but I'm never going to marry anyone. I had, my daughter say, I don't want any children. I don't want to have kids. I thank God because as time progressed, and I will tell them, like well, growing up, I would say, honey, I know you're upset. I know what happened hurt you, and I'm sorry that you had to find out exactly what happened. Not by my mouth because I didn't say anything, by the fact that you found out in your own way
Hmm.
about that betrayal. And I'm sorry that you don't trust your dad at the moment, but you have to get past that and think of how your dad was with you, not what he did at the end, how he was and he has been with you. And think of it as not every man is the same way. There's
Yeah.
some wonderful men out there that are loyal, that are respectful, that are like winning the lotto. They're wonderful people. I said, so don't judge every man by the card that your father played on us. Not
Yeah.
every man is the same way. And I will tell my son, it's even though he is your father, doesn't mean you're just like him. So
Right.
there's ways it affects your children in more ways than I know people don't talk about it because it's embarrassing to be undressing yourself like this in a platform that is going to reach millions of people, right? But
Mhm.
this is what we do here on the Sip and Chat, Miss Marlene. We undress.
Mhm.
And I will be dishonest if I tell you that it didn't affect my children at all. It affected them greatly. I'm very thankful that by the grace of God, they're married now. I have a grandchild. My eldest doesn't have any kids yet. My son doesn't have any, but they're married, all of them, or three of them are married and in healthy relationships. And that, again, is by the grace of God. That's the only way I can say it.
I can also say it's also a testament because of the way that you guys handled the separation.
Yes. Thank
Mhm.
you for that, Miss Marlene. Thank you for pointing that out. It is because of that. We didn't argue in front of them. That was the one thing I told my husband. I said, if you want to go off on me or I'm going to go, you do it when the kids are not here. We can bicker, we can yell at each other, we can call each other every name in the book, but not in front of the children. And that's what we did. And in front of our kids, graduations, weddings, birthdays, everything, we were the normal couple we always were. Not lovey dovey as we were at one point, but we were cordial. We were nice to each other. We will joke around. We will go with our kids and, being around them and like if nothing was happening because normalcy or as much normalcy as you can keep around them as you're going through hell and back, right?
Exactly.
It's not their fault. You don't want to scar them
And,
for the
and
rest of their lives. You
and
have to be civil.
right, and I have to say too that, don't just think just telling them, everything's going to be okay and your mom and dad loves you and all those things. Those are good things, but you also need to open up
Hmm.
a healing journey for them to be able to also get some therapy if that's what they want. Not everybody does, but at least offering it, letting them know that, this is mom and dad's issue. This has nothing to do with you, even though you tell them they still, they do feel like it's their fault too. And that's the reason why the therapy is so important for them to develop, to be able to process what happened.
Hmm. Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And that's what I told my children. Even though I said it's an issue between mom and dad, it will affect you. Don't think that I don't know that it affects you. I know that. But we have to work it as best as possible so that all of us can come out of this with the best outcome. And my kids know therapy is there, whether you want to or you believe in it or not, it is available. So it's up to you whether you want to do it or not. It worked for me. That doesn't mean it's going to have to work for you. I'm just saying it's available. And that's what I told them all the time. You guys want to go? No, mom, we don't. Okay, but if we do, we're going to do it at our own time. Okay, you do that when you're ready. But I did tell them that it was going to affect them. I didn't lie to them because I knew it was going to, Miss Marlene. I think as parents, the worst thing we can do is lie to our children or pretend that it's not going to happen to them. A
Hmm.
separation affects them probably more sometimes than it affects us as adults because they're children. They don't know the world the way you and I know it. So it affects them more than it affects us.
Mhm. And what I was gonna add, Miss Nexie, is that when you get separated or you divorce, you're free. You don't have to
Hmm.
have connections to that person, but the children is forever. Gonna forever be their dad or forever be their mom. But you can move on with your life, and if you so choose to get in another relationship. But them, they are always going to be tied to their mom or their dad.
Yeah, and I think I told you, Miss Marlene, as you know, when we were going through the separation, I think probably year 2 or 3 of from when he moved out, you know, out of the house. They were still going back and forth. They will go with dad. The kids were already in high school, so they will go whenever they wanted to. The little one was the only one that had to go back and forth more, because he missed dad. But the oldest ones, they were like, no, not this weekend. Maybe I'll try next weekend, Dad. If we want to, we'll drive over there because they were already driving. But the year 2 or 3, we were having a conversation, and I don't remember. I think my daughter had a tournament or something. I don't remember. But I make the comment of, what hurts me the most now is that, I'm going through all these things in, to your tournaments, or, to your games, or to your whatever it is that you're going to place from school. And, your dad is not with us. I'm going as a single mother, right? To all these events. And you know what my daughter said to me? She said, Mom, you were always a single mother. You were always the one transferring, taking us to sports, going to the school plays with us, taking us to different tournaments. You were always the one there with us. My dad was hardly ever there. My dad was always working. So you've been a single mom longer than you want to think about it, Mom. And my son said, "Yeah, that's true, Mom. You're always with us. That wasn't not really. So you've always been a single mom, Mom. So it's cool. Don't worry about it." I was
Yeah,
like, okay. So
yeah,
they noticed that even though it was different, it wasn't really different because I was doing the same thing I was doing with them when I was with their dad.
exactly,
So they
exactly.
pay attention.
Yeah, they pay attention and they know everything. And Miss Nexie, that's one of the reasons why we do these topics and we talk about these things, because it's not really, a lot of people don't talk about this. Most of the time you talk about the impact of cheating has on the, oh, and I don't think we even got to, I think we skipped over it. But
Uh oh.
I did want to talk about it before we get out of here. But we didn't talk about how it affects the cheater, like how how
Oh.
how does it impact the person who was the person who cheated. Now I can speak on my side. There's a lot of regret. There's a lot of sadness, a lot of wishing that they could have gone back in time and made a different decision. But also I think when the person who is the cheater, they always have to deal with, forever, I did wrong, I hurt this person. And then the longer that you think about it and the more mature you become, you start to figure out how many people you impacted. That it was, I didn't just affect my wife, or I didn't just affect my husband or my boyfriend or my girlfriend. I affected kids, I affected family, I affected friends, I affected, even sometimes you can affect the reputation you have on your job. Because if you were in the social circle and you were going to the job and now you don't, it's a lot of things that, at the end of the day, I think when they are alone, that they have to think about.
Yeah, yes, you're right, Miss Marlene. My husband and I now, my ex-husband and I, we talk about now we're a little bit more civilized than we were in the beginning, and I can literally say that without any reservation, we are a lot more civilized than we were before. Before there was a lot of slamming of the door, a lot of "get out of my house," things like that. But
Mhm.
now, we can sit down and be honest with each other. And he regrets it so very much. And he always says, crap all over this family. I'm responsible for everything that is going on in our family because of my actions. I lost the best person, the best woman I've ever known. I had that person and I lost her because of my actions. So he knows and he says that he this is a price that he's gonna pay for the rest of his life.
Mhm.
He says, and it's not gonna, just gonna affect this generation, it's gonna affect future generations because I'm gonna be that person that did this, right? It's not gonna
Mhm.
be just, oh, this is it and I forgot. No. And he says, I destroyed our family. I literally destroyed our beautiful family. And I damaged everything that we worked so hard to get and
Mhm.
the years that took to get there. I destroyed them. So, and I always tell him, you have to forgive yourself. You have to forgive yourself and move on. And he says, oh, no, no, I already done that. But the guilt doesn't go away no matter what I do. I know you forgave me. I know that my children one day will forgive me and will probably say that to me, I forgive you, dad, or whatever. He says, but I cannot forgive me. And even though I have already forgiven me, I still go back to that. I, I, I was the perpetrator. I did this. I caused
Mhm.
all of this chaos. So it affects them greatly because we heal, Miss Marlene, and we move on.
Mhm.
They never do that.
Yeah. And you know what
They're
is
always at fault.
and you know what the funny part, Miss Nixie, is afterwards, when the healing takes place and you've healed and you get back to a space of your friends now, and or not friends, but at least you're cordial, and then you start living your life, and then they look at, especially, you move on, especially if you move on, you get in a relationship, you get married again, they're going to be like kicking themselves, because they're always going to have to look and say, that could have been me.
Hmm. Yep. That was me.
Yeah, that was me.
Hmm. And again, it's a very, for me, what when I chose to stay by myself, my kids were like in high school growing up. I knew it wasn't the best time for me to get into another relationship and probably neglect my children because I was going to be focusing on this other person. I knew I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that to my kids. It was a choice that I made. But for me, being the person that I am, staying single, staying, focused on me, on my kids, and whatever else I have going on around me, it, for me, that's actually the best option because I am right now too selfish with my time.
Yeah,
My time is mine,
Miss Nexie,
right?
I feel the same way now. I feel like after all of the years of giving and sacrificing and doing this and putting up with this and the control and the not control, but you know what I'm saying. When
Yeah.
you're in a relationship, there are things that you have to do in the relationship to keep it civil and happy. And now it's like I can do whatever I want now.
No, no, this is me at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get a snack and what, and I can be up watching TV and I'm gonna
Yeah,
watch a
and you
movie
have
till
to have
3.
nobody saying, "Turn off the TV," or you're
Yeah,
hearing noise or
are
hearing
you still
someone
up?
snoring. That's over. I'm like, "That's over."
I can call you. Yeah, yeah, we cannot make it. I'm not in the country, but we'll be there in a couple of weeks, so we'll see you there. I can do that.
You can do that, and that's what healing does. So, Miss Nexie, a great topic. Any final words?
You know, the only thing I will probably, as someone that has been betrayed, I have never done that to anyone myself, but as someone that has been on the other side of that, is that before you get to the point where you feel that you're going to do this, end that relationship first.
Hmm.
Don't do this to yourself because you don't you harm the person that you're doing it to. But the guilt is going to be on you for the rest of your life. So before you get to that point, think of how would you feel if it was done to you, and end the relationship before you move on to the next. That's
Yeah.
the only thing I can say to people that are thinking or are doing it at this point, because nothing that is done, in the darkness stays there. It comes to light one day or another, and when you least expect it. So if you think you're getting away with, mm-mm,
Yeah,
for
well,
now, for now.
yeah, you may be getting away with it, but eventually, yeah, all the cards will be on the table. The writing will be on the wall. It all will come out. It always does. But at the end of the day, we have these conversations because it's important to talk about not just the impact of the romantic relationship, but how it trickles down, because this is a show, this is a channel that talks about love, and love comes in various forms. And if you are affected because of someone's poor decision, we need to talk about it. So
Hmm.
thank you so much, Miss Nexie, for coming on.
Thank you, Miss Marlene, and thank you so much. And again, these are topics that are not easy for us to speak of, are not easy for us to touch on, but we do it because the last thing we want is to continue the silence and people continue to get hurt because nobody is speaking about it. We have to. We have to talk about not just how it affects the immediate couple, but how it affects the entire family as a whole. How everybody, in one way or another, is going to get damaged, but that act that you commit. So we have to be careful how we love people. We have to remember that. Love is just that. It doesn't come with pain or hurt. It's just love. So we
Yep.
have to talk about this topic so we can continue to voice that out, because I think that right now, Miss Marlene, the way the world is, we need these topics. We really do.
We need
And
it.
thank you for having me.
No, no, no problem. We need to have these topics because there's so many people that are dealing with so much issues. And I understand, me and Miss Nexie understand that not everybody can afford to go to therapy. Not everybody wants to go to therapy. It's a lot of issues behind all of that. But just so that you know that it's okay to process these things. Hi, Sirius.
Oh,
It's
hi, serious.
okay to process these things and to feel, understand that, don't blame yourself for everything, and let yourself move on, let yourself move on from, the guilt, from the pain, from the shame, because that's another thing that happens a lot of times with friends and your relatives and other people. It's a shame attached to it, and you feel ashamed for what happened. So you do have to forgive yourself from that, even if you are somebody who is on the outside of the relationship.
Yeah. And can I say something really quick, Miss Marlene, before we go? Um, if it's okay with you, of course.
Oh, sure.
Okay. The only thing I wanted to say to whoever is going through a betrayal or a cheater, or whatever it is that they're going through right now, and they're going through either a separation or a divorce, whatever it is, please keep the children out of it. Do not badmouth the father in front of the children, when to others. Do not mouth the mother in front of the kids with others, or to them about. Remember, this is their parent. They love as equally as they love you, and therefore they will hurt as equally if somebody was talking bad or nasty about you. So keep the kids away from the drama, but do not lie to them. Just keep them away from any negativity when it comes to the other parent. because it's not healthy for them to grow up listening to what the so-called cheater is. Even though if you feel it that way, do not share it with your children. Remember that that's their father or that's their mother. So keep them away from that drama. That's all,
Yeah,
Miss Marlene.
exactly. Yeah. Great words, great finale. Awesome show. Thank you, Miss Nexie. Thank you to everybody that came through. I'm gonna read Sirius's comment before we get out of here. Marlene, I was a little busy. Overall, I'm doing wonderfully. How about yourself? I'm doing great. Miss Nexie, how are you doing?
I'm doing super great, Sirius. Thank you. Thank you for coming. We miss you here.
Mm-hmm.
We're always looking out for you. Like, Sirius is not in today. What's going on?
Yeah.
But I'm glad you're here today.
And we miss James too.
Yes. Where
Mhm.
is he? I'm
And
gonna send him
Nate.
a message.
And Nate.
And realist.
Yeah, and Realist. Yeah, that's our crew. That's our crew of
Yeah.
support. Yeah.
But we're grateful for everybody else that is here. Very, very grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. Very grateful. And I hope everybody is doing well, loved ones. I can't wait, Miss Nexie. We're going to come up on I think the 70th episode of the Sip and Chat. I think.
Oh, wow.
So, I feel like we should do a special show when that comes. I think right now we're on episode 63 or something like that. So, in a few more weeks we're going to do a really nice show for the 70th episode. I
We're
think
gonna get buck wild.
I think on that one, Miss Nexie, we're going to probably maybe bring on an extra guest.
Yes.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think I have an idea for what we should do on that show,
Woo!
but I'll tell you off air.
I'm excited about it. Yes. So thank you everybody. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful next week, and we'll see you next Thursday. Thank you for having me, Miss Marlene. Again, great, great live, and I hope you have a great weekend too.
Yes, same to you. Nothing but love, peace, and positivity to all of my loved ones. And we'll see you guys next week on the Sip and Chat. Bye,
Bye, everyone.
everybody.